Hello and welcome back to this course, Python Programming for Beginners. I am excited to have you on board on this course. Congratulations as you have taken your first step in your Python programming journey, which is the most important step. Like I mentioned in the course overview, this course is meant for everybody, both beginners, people that were already in the programming field but want to switch to another programming language, people that want to advance their career. You are most welcome to this course. So in this course, we are starting from the very basics and then to more advanced topic, and by the end of those course we are going to be building real life projects. So in this video we are going to be looking at a general overview of what Python programming is, that is how Python programming works. So we are going to be looking at, first of all, how programs run on a computer. Then we are going to explain compiled and interpreted languages, and then we are going to classify Python as an interpreted language. Now, like we mentioned in the first video, which is the overview, Python is a high-level interpreted language. Now, what is a high-level language? A high-level language is a programming language that is close to human language. Now, there are two major types, the high-level and the low-level. There are some that sit somewhere in between, but the high level and the low level languages are the two major classes. Let's look at the low level language and how they are being executed and run on a computer. Now let's take a look at this crucial point. For your program to run successfully on your computer, there are three major components that are involved. First of all, you have to look at your source code, which is the program itself, the program that you or another person has written. Then we look at the computer memory and then the computer brain, which is the processor. Now, let's take a look at this illustration. Your source code, you have written it as something like this. You have written your print hello world in your source code, but the computer does not understand what print is. Talk more of what hello or world is. So like we already know from our basic computer education that computer understands ones and zeros. So now what is that part of the computer? That is the main part of the computer that carries out all the executions and all the processes that happen in the computer, understands ones and zeros. And these ones and zeros are called binary digits. That part of the computer is called the processor. So let's say the processor is sitting somewhere here. Now, there is another part of the computer that is crucial to this execution called the memory. So let's look at the memory. Now, this memory, what does it do? It stores the instruction from your program here and it gives it to this processor here for the processor to carry it out. Now, if you take this your hello world and give to this storage, and this storage gives it to the processor will not understand the hello world. So we need something that will interpret this print hello world to something that the computer understands. Now, for low-level programming languages, this is how it works. Now, these low-level programming languages include C++ and the rest of them. Now, let's look at how it works in low-level languages. That is compiled languages. Here, in low-level languages, in between your program and the memory, and this is the processor, and this is the code. Now, in between the program, that is the code, and the memory, something sits here, and that thing that sits here is called the compiler. The compiler in itself is a software, and the duty is to take whatever program that is here on the source code and interpret it. Well, the word is not interpret, but converts it to ones and zero. So when it converts it to ones and zero, it makes it available to this storage, and whenever somebody clicks on your program, the memory will simply just take this code that is already compiled and feeds it to the processor, and the processor will now understand, oh, the user is saying I should print hello world, and then it now just returns hello world to the screen. How this works is a bit different in the case of Python. Now, because Python is a high level language, the process is a little bit different. Now, your program is here, your Python program is here that says print hello world, and your processor is also here, and you still have your memory. But then, how do we run this Python script? We run this Python script by typing something like this: Python hello.py. What does this mean? Well, hello.py or whatever file name .py is usually the name of the file that you stored your Python program in. So when you say Python hello.py, there is a software called Python that you must have installed in your system, which we are going to install as you proceed in the next video. So when you say Python hello.py, this Python here that you are calling is already a software, and it is already a binary file. So it is already compiled. Now, you have already installed it in your computer memory. So the Python is already seated inside this your computer memory. So inside this Python that's seated in your computer memory as binary files, it is divided into two major parts. You have the Python Visual Machine, and then you have the compiler, the Python compiler. How does this work? When you say Python hello.py, a binary code is sent also to the processor. But this time around, it's not exactly the binary code of your source file that is sent to the processor. This time around, it is this binary file that is already stored in the memory that is sent. But then, it's also sent alongside this particular script, because you are taking this software here and you are making reference to this script. So when you say Python hello.py, you are calling two things: a software that is already there and then your own program. So how does it really work? So there is a compiler here and there is a Python virtual machine here. I'm going to represent it with M. Please ignore my illustrations, just focus on what we are doing. Now, you have your compiler that is already installed as a program, and then your Python virtual machine here. So when you say Python hello.py, this binary file is sent to the processor, and then this compiler here also comes to this your source file and compile it like every other compiler would do. That is what normal compilers do. And then it will produce something called a bytecode. Now, this bytecode that is produced is not in any way targeted to this processor, because this processor do not understand it. So what happens is that this bytecode that is generated when this compiler here compiles this your file is targeted at this Python virtual machine, so that as this binary file here is being sent to the processor inside the already installed program here, the Python virtual machine will be feeding this bytecode to this processor, and then the processor will be running the program for you. So now you understand the process of compilation and interpretation. So when it comes to compiled languages, a compiler sits directly in between the memory and the source code. And then the memory now immediately feeds the compiled language to the computer processor, which is the brain of the computer, for it to run and then give us our output. But then in case of an interpreted language like Python, the case is a bit different. Something have to understand the high level language, because it is not written in a language that can be easily interpreted to ones and zero, and then it will understand it and then interpret it to the processor. I hope we understand these processes. When you are running your Python program, you understand what is going on and you understand why we need to install Python. Like I mentioned in the overview, we are going to install the Python program which contains the Python interpreter. Now you now know that the Python interpreter, that is a binary file installed in the computer memory, is made up of the compiler and Python Visual Machine. So thank you for watching this video. I believe you've now understood the meaning of compiled languages and interpreted language. I believe also that you've understood how Python languages run in the background. See you in the next video.